Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love and Law. My name is Virginia Warren. I'm a lawyer and conflict alchemist and co-founder of the organisation called Lawyers for Love. At Lawyers for Love, we believe that the legal system is not serving people in the best possible way it could because it's underpinned by fear. And we say that to solve a problem, you need to use a different level of consciousness than was used to create it. And with that in mind, we use love as a solution. Now, love is a big topic, but we just like to say that love and fear cannot coexist. And that's the way we look at solving problems with love as of the essence. Now, with that in mind, we've got this live stream broadcast that we're doing to showcase amazing lawyers globally who are bringing their own style of love into legal practice. So it's so exciting that many people are seeing this, many lawyers are seeing this in this space. And we are very excited to have today Nicolle Kopping-Pavars with us. She's from Ontario, Canada. Now, I'm going to introduce Nicolle, and then I would like anyone to please feel free to post any questions they'd like, and if we can get to you before the interview is closing, we shall. So today, yes, I'm very excited to introduce Nicolle. She's a lawyer from Canada who uses a legal system to inspire people to transition, transform, and transcend. Nicolle was a lawyer in South Africa who had her own legal practice. When she became a lawyer, she recalled that she had a naive belief that she could change the world. And that's, so similar to many lawyers that have that vibe. And after practicing, her naivety got the reality check in the proverbial butt, as she says, and she became slightly disillusioned. So with 2 children under the age of 4 and working full-time, she emigrated, studied and became a lawyer in Canada, where she is now. She noted that there was one solid difference this time. She wasn't going to sell her soul to the devil and would practice according to who she was and how she believed law should be practiced. With this in mind, Nicolle's original desire to become a lawyer and change the world is exactly what she's doing, one client and one lawyer at a time. In doing so, she's trained as a mindfulness instructor and a Reiki master, which is very, very exciting. I want to talk to her about all that. And she's rebranded herself as a transformational lawyer, where she helps clients transition to a new normal. And I love that, a new normal. That's beautiful, especially in these times. So Nicolle's tagline is transition, transform, and transcend. But today I'm going to ask Nicolle, firstly, how did you get into law? What made you decide to become a lawyer?
Well, first of all, Virginia, thank you so much for having me. And my cheeks are getting sore because I just can't stop smiling. I'm just so excited to be with you. So thanks for that. Why did I become a lawyer? I don't have the same story like, from the age of 4 years old, that's what I wanted to be. I kind of stumbled into law because there was nothing else I wanted to do. And it was like, okay, I was growing up, I was an actress. You know, I belonged to like a youth acting group and was involved in the theater. And I had no passion for anything in particular, but I kind of knew acting wasn't going to really, I was good, I wasn't fantastic. So I thought, in my mind, was like, what can I do that will allow me to bring acting into something? Was like, maybe law will, right? Being a lawyer, like I've seen those shows, they're on a big stage and they prance around in courtrooms and, maybe acting in there, and sort of that's how I went there because there was nothing else that grabbed me. And it was, okay, let's try law. And I've always wanted to help people. So it was, okay, well, let's bring that all together. Let's see what comes of that. And I had gone to actually my mother took me to because I had no idea what I wanted to do. She had taken me, when I was at school, there was this woman, everyone went to, she was this astrologer. And everyone went to this astrologer in your last year of school, and her name was Sharon Eisenhenker. And Sharon told you what you should do. And law came up. What was actually librarian, banker, or law. And I knew banker and librarian was not going to go down well with me. So I was like, okay, let's try law. And she said actually that in a few of my past lifetimes, I had been a judge and sort of the wise people she said that sort of has always been my lineage, as so the stars say. So what the hell? I thought, let's try this thing out, and here I am.
And that was it a comfortable thing for you to move into law, and did that feel familiar to you?
You know, it was the strangest thing. I once walked into a courtroom. I'm not even sure why I was in the courtroom. Possibly for my parents' divorce. Maybe I went with my mother to court one day. I'm not even sure. And have you ever walked into a place and you go, this feels familiar? This feels nice. And I remember thinking, I like this place. And it was the most horrible place. It was not a nice place. You know, it was like, but it felt familiar. And I think that sort of sat with my heart. It was like, it felt like coming home somehow.
It is amazing when you get those sort of, you trust that, don't you? You really do trust in that. There's much more to this. And yeah, in the legal system, it's funny how we don't feel things. But that really is the foundation of everything, isn't it? We tell people what to do, we use our intellect, but we don't allow people to feel. And when you're explaining that, it is exactly, you know, your directions when you're going in and feeling a place. Yeah, absolutely. And so from there, you studied law, and this is in South Africa.
Yeah, this was in South Africa.
And then you moved into a law firm, or how did you transition after you got your qualification?
So it's I've never been able to get a job, right? So like I apply, and other people less qualified than me somehow get the job, and I believe this is because it's the path I'm meant to be on, right? So I never got jobs, or like I'd go for interviews and wouldn't get them, and it was like, fine, well, I'll just open up my own law practice, right? If you don't want me, then I'll just become my own lawyer. And so that's really, I went straight out of, I had a few mentors or people I worked for who I think anti-role models are as important as role models, because anti-role models teach you how you don't want to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I worked for a few people who I did not like the way they did things, and I knew that wasn't going to work for me. So I think the fact that, call it the universe, call it the guides, call it whatever it is, always made it difficult for me to work for somebody. So that I had to just go on my own and do it my own way. And even in Canada, you know, it was a struggle to find work in the legal system. I had one lawyer here who eventually just gave me an opportunity to get my articles done. And he even said to me, I know you're not going to work for me, and that's why I'm being hard on you, because you're going to go out on your own. Because he knew I wasn't going to work for somebody I didn't like. I find it hard working for people.
Yeah, I like this idea that you've said anti-mentor, anti-role model. That's quite interesting, because yes, we can learn something from everybody, can't we? Even those people that are really challenging us sometimes. And that's what a lot of people aren't realizing right now. There's so many challenges out there in the world, but nobody's seeing them as your role model or as opportunities to, wow, look at that. I prefer not to have that. Just that's a choice that I perhaps don't want, so I might move over there. You know, it gives you opportunities all the time, but instead we're shunning and we're blaming and berating, rather than saying, wow, this is a great opportunity to see what I don't want and how I could do it differently. Well, that's amazing. So then you've opened up your own practice in Canada now. And that's called transformational law. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, so when I first started, it was just called NKP law, nothing fancy or exciting. So it's still NKP law, but I've sort of created this umbrella so I can actually bring my lotus law, which is my mindfulness work that I do, and my Reiki work. Like, why not? Like, why should I just, the beginning of last year, maybe a bit before, I suddenly realized, why am I hiding my true self from people? Like, I'm a lawyer and I'm good, and I do believe in crystals, and I do believe in energy, and I do believe in guides, and I do believe in all of this stuff. And why do I have to shut it off when I'm a lawyer? Because then I'm not being my true self. So I suddenly realized, if I want to sparkle and shine, then I have to bring everything who makes me me. And that's why I rebranded as a transformational lawyer.
That is absolutely sensational, because this is what's been happening too for people, that we've been disconnecting from parts of ourselves, not honoring who we are on this planet and bringing those gifts, those things that we have to offer to everybody else. If we're able to do that, then we're bringing the whole of ourselves, our authentic perspective. We all have a different perspective, rather than being lemmings in boxes saying, okay, you have to be just so don't use any part of your creativity in this space. It doesn't serve people. You can't draw from, you're drawing from others rather than from self when you're doing that, and that's not you, and that's not authentic. And how are you helping anybody by just, you say to someone, we may as well read this book, just read this book and just do that rather than see another perspective. So yeah, I love that you've done that.
I want to say that I read your book, and I've got your book, and it's like 2 years ago, I think, that you published it, right? And there was one part in there, and it could really be right at the beginning, right at the very beginning, where you said, as lawyers, we put on this shield or this guard, you know, that is the armor. Thank you. We put on this the lawyer armor, right? But why aren't you wearing your cheetah, your tiger print shoes and your comfortable things? I was like, yeah, why the hell am I not wearing this because I don't feel like wearing a suit, right? Like, why is that? Those words are like, be who you are. I say to my clients, or I say to my lawyers, colleagues who say, oh, you know, I always dress blah, blah, and I go, do you think your client really cares? So maybe for the first time you see them wear the suit, but then be comfortable. They don't care. They're not paying you for your wardrobe.
That's right. For your expertise. And I think sometimes that armor or that suit disconnects us from a person as well, because it's a little bit intimidating, I find anyway. And when everyone's in a uniform and you're walking around in a courtroom and it's us and them. Why? We're all humans, and if I can't connect to you and what the issue really is, I'm not really serving you very well, you know. And it is about the connection, and this is where, you know, this group Lawyers for Love is going, is understanding that it is all energy. Everything is energy, as you're saying, and because you're working with Reiki, of course, that's all energy. And because it's all energy, we have to treat the way we looking at problems or finding those solutions from an energetic point of view. They're not cut off where there's a line in the sand. You can't cut off energy and say a bit is good and a bit is bad. You can't do that. It all must flow. And so it's a whole new way of looking at the systems that we have and being authentic. Yeah, absolutely. But I love this. So you say you Reiki your files. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. I've got this idea. I mean, this is how crazy I am. I've got this idea, and maybe we can chat about it. It's called the Compassionate Courtroom, and I've written this down. And this has been sitting on my desk with pink crystal quartz, because I'm putting the energy in there. It just sits on my desk doing its thing.
Yep, the energy of love and rose quartz. Yes, absolutely. So tell me about it. Tell me all about it. I want to hear it.
So if you'll allow me, it might be sort of a long answer to this question, how I got there. But I, like you, think that the court system is terrible. It doesn't, you know, first of all, no one really wants to be there. But family law in particular is just, it's such a horrible place to be, you know. And so when I did my mindfulness in law teacher training in San Francisco, they kind of said at the very end of the course, what is your vision? Like, why are you doing this course? Yes, you want to train and you want to teach lawyers mindfulness, but like, what is really your vision? And I realized my vision was to have a compassionate courtroom, because I do believe in the trickle effect of like a hierarchical system, right? So I believe that if judges can role model to lawyers, and lawyers can role model to clients, and clients can role model to children, we can have such a fantastic system. But it starts with lawyers making courtrooms a place of understanding and love and compassion. So that the judges don't make lawyers feel like imbeciles in the courtroom, which then makes lawyers frustrated with their clients, and then clients are scared to ask their lawyers questions, and then they go home frustrated to their children because they had a really bad day in court. So I really wanted this idea of like, I just called it compassionate courtroom. So that was about 2017, and I would like to say it's going to be, my baby's hopefully going to be, the concept of my baby will be birthed this year. I'll explain more, but where it really became so important for me was when I had to go to do a trial, my first trial. So I don't litigate, and the only time that I do go to court is I'm an agent for the Office of the Children's Lawyer. So that's an agency here where if kids have been apprehended from their home, or if their parents are in high custody custody access files, then the courts appoint lawyers to help the children in whatever way they need. So I was appointed for 3 children in a custody access. The family were in just the most litigious. They had already separated a long time ago, and it was like 7 years, and there was still fighting. And so I had been appointed for the kids, and it went to trial. And I had to advocate for the kids, and it was my first trial. And I don't know if you've ever done a trial, but you know, when you're doing a cross-examination or you're preparing for the cross-examination, it's very strategic, because you're really trying to push someone in the direction that you want them to go. So it's almost like you have them in a maze, and they can't choose which route they want to take. You're very carefully directing them to exactly where the exit is. And 2 things struck me that really gave me a fright while I was doing my preparation. The one was how much I was enjoying doing it. And it was like, oh my God, like I thought that I was so anti-conflict, but I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of the destruction I'm hoping to get this person to. So it really upset me that I got all of this, like I felt that I was actually enjoying it. So that was the first thing that concerned me. And then the second thing that really concerned me was the fact that I believe in all Buddhist concepts and precepts, and I'm trained in the Theravada tradition, and it says do no harm to anybody. And here I was knowingly going to harm somebody and being conscious of it. And I felt so bad about it. And my teacher from Thailand happened to be in Canada, and I was attending his classes. Whenever he's here, I attend. Anything this man can teach me, I will go to. And so I happened to have some classes, and I told him my quandary, like, what am I going to do? And he said 3 things to me that were so impactful. He said, one, if you really hate your job and it isn't who you are, get rid of it. Don't do it. That was the first thing he said. The second thing he said to me is, if you can't get out of it, and this job is really where you have to be, then find a way, find out what your true intention is, find out what your purpose is, and then work with that and make that wholesome. So whatever you do, make sure that your purpose is wholesome. And then the third thing he told me is just apologize for what you're doing. And I took all of that because I do love my job. I don't want to not be a lawyer. I love being a lawyer. And then I realized what is my purpose? Like, who am I serving? And I was serving my client. I call them my kids all the time, but I was serving my client, and what was best for them. And what was best for them may not have been good for the parents. And while the parents may have been hurt by the end result, my job was to advocate for my clients, who were the children. And I had to do it in a wholesome way and to the best of my ability. And the third thing was that I was going to apologize to these parents in the courtroom. So the first thing we did when we started was my turn to cross-examine the father. The first thing I said to him was, Mr. X, I want to apologize upfront for any harm that may come as a result of this cross-examination. The questions may be hard and the questions may be difficult, but I want you to know it's not personal. I want you to understand that I have a job, and the job is to advocate for your children. And sometimes what you have to hear is not going to be easy, but it's nothing personal against you. And then I asked him, I said, do I have your permission to proceed? And he said, yes. And he gave me his permission, and the whole energy in the courtroom changed. And I said the same thing to the mother, right? And when I had my opening argument and my closing argument, I said, you are both fantastic parents. You've got the most amazing children that I have been privileged to work with, and that's as a result of you. And so I acknowledged all of that to them. And I realized that just because you are in a courtroom, it doesn't mean you cannot find a way to bring love and compassion into a courtroom in the most horrible of circumstances. There were tears. There were some times during the cross-examination where we had to pause. Everyone was upset, there were tears. But you can bring compassion in anywhere if you've got the mindset to do it. So once I knew that I could actually do it and I could bring these principles in, I started developing my compassionate courtroom, because I do want to change the legal narrative, and I do want courtrooms, particularly family law courtrooms, to be compassionate. And that's my mission, and that's what I'm going to do.
I absolutely love that. And I love that you said, whilst it may be, the parents may find it hurtful, it's for the highest good. And that's what I see as a very loving thing, is for the highest good of all in any situation. And it may be hurtful, but as we see some negative responses to a situation, maybe for our own highest good, to see those to see ourselves respond negatively. Why are we responding in this way? And it could be beneficial to everybody to go into that situation. Yes, the children, you're advocating for their highest good, and the parents are having a look at how they're responding to these things that are being probably quite painful for them to listen to, how they're responding to them. Because when you can honestly sit with the way you are viewing life, you can really benefit from that. And I think if people just turn that around, and that's what we're saying, is turn everything around, everything that you are reacting to, see where there is the benefit in. What are you here to learn? That's all. Life is just your reaction to it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's your reaction to it. So if we had a courtroom, like you say, with compassion, we can see everybody is stating their own truth, because we're all seeing a perspective, aren't we? We're all seeing life from our true perspective. It doesn't matter that I like pineapple and you don't like pineapple.
Yeah.
The fact is, I like it and you don't. None of that is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just our perspective. And to have compassion, if I think you should like pineapple, why is that my concern?
Yeah. And isn't that what conflict is all about, right? Like you and I can have completely different views of things, and it doesn't matter. But it's when you start judging me about my perspective, because there's some kind of threat to yours, that's when conflict happens, right? There's been a threat to something that you care about because of something I've said or I've done. But yeah, like if I don't, if I hate pineapple and I'm allergic to pineapple, but that's the only food you eat, it's not going to bother me as long as you're not judging me for that.
No, and when people are trying to have somebody take on their own point of view and say, well, you're wrong, it's only just to try and say I'm right. And why? Why do I need to be told I'm right? Because I don't have any self-worth. That's why. I don't feel validated in my own self. And if I felt validated in myself, then I probably wouldn't even really be having the argument with you in the first place.
Yeah.
But these are the perfect opportunities in the courtroom here, is the perfect opportunity to see, why am I not happy in my own space? Why haven't I self-validated? What's going on with me that makes me react this way?
Why am I so frightened?
That's exactly right. And it's a bit of a tide to turn, but I think people are really coming to this place now, particularly what we've probably seen in other countries where there's been a lot of angst on teams, like political teams, let's put it that way. Why is one team right and the other team not right?
Yeah.
Why? They're all seeing their perspective is true and valid for them. And they're saying, effectively, people are reaching out for a parent to say that they're right. And that's where we're trying to also help people say, well, you actually have your own guidance system and you can use it.
Yeah.
But we need to drop what we call Lawyers for Love as the rules. You've created all these rules for yourself, the internal legal systems that you're running, that, you must like pineapple.
Yeah.
and pineapple's the only way to go, or else the rest of you is wrong and I'm going to banish you all and put you in prison for not liking pineapple.
Yeah. No.
I know that seems really silly, but it actually is the foundation of it all. To put people away and shun them for not having your point of view is to effectively say, well, there's a part of me that does like pineapple and there's a part of me that doesn't. And actually that's the whole me, if I really want to look at humanity as a whole and the energy of it. because we are whole. We are energetically all connected. So I can't say the pineapple dislikers are the bad ones.
It's really,
Because,
I love that analogy, because that really is, what most people don't understand is, what is it about pineapples that has hurt you so deeply, or that you're so offended by it? And it might just be because you grew up and you've never had a pineapple, and the first person who said, hey, have some pineapple, didn't tell you that it was going to lacerate your tongue.
Yeah, that there's many reasons why this happens, and it could be simply your parents said, we don't eat pineapple here, full stop, pineapple is bad. And so you've grown up with the rule, pineapple is bad. That's the end of the story. And so you see people out there eating pineapple and you want to fight them, just tell them you're wrong, you can't eat that pineapple, it's bad. But your authentic self, the valid, authentic you, was the one that said, at one point you grabbed the pineapple and wanted to eat it until your parents said it wasn't any good. Then that's where things change for you, because your authenticity said, oh, hang on a minute, I really like pineapple, so I've got this internal conflict going on. My classic one on this is boys don't cry. That's the one I think that's affecting humanity. That men can't connect with emotion, they're not allowed to. And women are not allowed to display any anger, can't assert themselves. And I know generationally this will change, but that's why we see so many family law matters effectively. In my experience as a lawyer, family law in front of me, I see anger and sadness trying to express themselves. And that's why we have people together in these relationships to help them find those emotions that have been cut away, saying sadness is no good, anger is no good. Well, they're all perfectly good emotions if they've been allowed to mature. Rather than as children, they were cut off, they were disconnected, we were disconnected from them and not matured. So we can have compassion for somebody in a courtroom like this. This is ideal. I love what you're saying.
And one thing that you mentioned the word, GPS. You turn on your GPS. I cannot take credit for this, but somebody once told me, I don't know who, I don't know if I read it, was told, but GPS stands for guidance provided by source.
Oh, beautiful. That's lovely. I haven't heard that one. I love that. That's beautiful. But it is, it's a nice one that people use as well, our internal GPS or our self-guidance system, not parental. I mean, also, we probably go a little bit deeper here to Lawyers for Love and saying that a lot of the rules or laws are probably, we don't need them. If we know not to kill somebody, we know this. Why do we need a rule to tell us this? That's what we think is interesting.
And I think the whole point of my compassionate courtroom is the problem that I have with lawyers is that they're always writing for a judge to be the final audience. And very often the judge isn't the final audience. Why are you writing for a judge to be the final audience when the people who really need it are sitting right in front of you? Why aren't you making why aren't you humanizing your clients? Why aren't you using simple language? We don't have to use the wherewithals and all of these things, right? It's because you want the lawyers think, if this goes before a judge, the judge has to see I'm a really smart person. So it doesn't matter that my client doesn't understand one word of what I've written, as long as if it goes before a judge, the judge can say, you a smart lawyer, and even orders that judges write are not simple. The language is not simple. And most people go to court fighting over rules that has got no impact on the client's family, right? So late service, late filing, all of these things, right?
Money making.
Clients don't care.
And money making.
Mm-hmm. It's money making, And so the whole concept of my compassionate courtroom is bringing 3 legal concepts together in one courtroom. So the one is obviously litigation, which we know. Collaborative law, and Stu Webb, I've spoken to him about this, and he's given me his blessing because litigation goes completely against collaborative law. But I chatted to him, and he gave me such good feedback of what he understood my concept. So it's litigation, collaborative law, and then problem-solving courts. And problem-solving courts means you need to get to the source of the problem to find out how to heal that person. So a problem-solving court is really for, drug court or domestic violence court. So you can't say to a drug addict, I'm ordering for you not to take drugs, because you know they're going to take drugs.
It's going to happen.
So
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to happen. But if you get to the source of the problem, and this is why these courts are established, is get to the source of the problem, you can then help this person manage the problem. And so I thought, well, why don't we have that in family law as well? Get to the source of the problem using collaborative tools, but we can still bring litigation in, because there are some people who still think, I still want a judge to hear this. I still need to hear that.
I need someone to tell me I'm right.
Yes.
That's the thing. You also said something when you were doing cross-examination about getting the permission of the person. And I think that's what a lot of lawyers don't do. They don't listen to their client at all. The client isn't heard. That the evidence is cherry-picked for the lawyer's own benefit. So the fundamental components of a client's case aren't really heard at all.
Yeah.
And a client will be in a position and say, well, I don't know, that wasn't me. Yeah. Who is this person? I don't know that person. It's not me.
And that was the problem that I had when I was a lawyer practicing with as how I was meant according to the stereotypical way of practicing, is I would talk to clients and they'd go, he's actually a good dad. And I'd go, yeah, but did he bathe the children? No, he worked too hard. Okay, so he never bathed the children. Did he take them to the doctor? No, well, he was working. Okay, so primarily he never did anything for the kids, right? No, I did everything. Okay, so he wasn't really such a good father. And you twist the words because it makes you look better on paper. But my client had said to me, he's actually a good dad, but that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you. So let's just, we won't not tell the truth. We'll just say all the things he didn't do, even though that was how your marriage functioned.
Yeah. And so it is a farce. and the orders that are made are then a farce. And I see also, particularly in parenting orders and parenting matters, and I'm sure it's the same where you are, is you cannot provide every contingency for what will happen as the children grow. How can you provide orders to govern people's lives? Again, we're looking for a parent out there to tell us how to do our life. Yeah. It's time to grow ourselves up. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. I just see it so vividly and think, oh gosh. And yeah, that's why I really stopped doing parenting orders, because I thought, wow, if you can't work it out, there's a real problem. Yeah. you know, and I mean that. I know it sounds trite to say it, but at the end of the day, if you can't work out that the child needs to be fed, clothed, and to see each of you, then what's going on within you? That's the first question. What's going on within you to want to have that power to hold the child back? You want this power. And that's okay. That's where you're at. That's no problem at all. But let's recognize that that's what's happening right now. It actually has nothing to do with the child. It's to do with the other parent. Yeah. And that you have some power and control in the situation because you don't have it for yourself. Yes. So we've got to find out where you've lost your own power. Yeah, 100%. So these are fundamental things. These are fundamental things we can do for clients. And that's the way we work, is really just forget about all the laws and rules. Come back to where you've created your own rules. Yes. So that when you've created them for yourself and you slowly start dropping your own rules, yes, start getting your own power back, and then everything changes. Your perspective changes.
Yeah, I agree. And, I had this one mediation file, and they were lovely people. Like, they were just such wonderful people who had just grown apart for whatever reason, or because they just didn't hear each other and they weren't communicating and listening to each other, and they were going at it. And I always have pictures of the children on the table, and I said to them, once they sort of had everything they could do, they were sort of they'd exhausted themselves. I said to them, what do you think if your kids were sitting at the table right now? What do you think they would tell you, the two of you, to do right now, in this moment? And they both looked at each other and said, they'd probably tell us to hug. And I said, well, then hug each other. And they went, hug each other. And I made them get up and hug each other. And they both started crying, and they sat down. And we were able to, because I was able to reconnect the fact of what was important to the children. The children want their parents to love each other. Yeah. And they actually wanted the I don't know which one it was, wrote me such a lovely testimonial at the end, and they said, in order for us to get to the end, we had to remember that once we loved each other. And they had to remember that. And people forget that they once loved each other.
That's right. And that we all are just humans having an experience.
Yeah.
We've all got our own story. And this is what I found initially in the legal system. When I did yoga, and I learned the concept Ahimsa, nonharm, the same principle. I thought, how do I bring that into law when everybody's trying to win? But everyone's perspective is true. And this is the big thing I couldn't really understand. How was I going to reconcile that everybody's point of view is right for them? How can we bring that into a legal practice? Not blame the other person. Why? They're doing what they think is the right thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as we see that, as soon as we can actually see that in another person, we start having compassion, and then the negative energy between the two diminishes.
Yeah.
We see, oh, I just want love, you just want love. Ultimately, that's the bottom line. At the end of the day, we're all looking for love. Yeah. And the term "you hurt me" is not real, because how can you hurt me? It's my choice to be hurt.
Yeah.
So what within me allows me to be hurt? You know, these are really basic little questions, but until we turn it all around and stop the fight, many of us are never going to see it. And this is why we say, a different level of consciousness needs to be brought in to answer any questions, any problems that you are having. Bring in a higher perspective.
Yes.
Let's bring love into it, and love being, a state of being without the fears, without the negative energy.
Yeah.
And
I think most people just want to be heard, seen, and acknowledged.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm sure you know about the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I try live my life by those 4 agreements, but I've actually put them into my engagement letters with my clients and saying, when you engage me as your lawyer, you are committing to those 4 agreements, because aren't they the most amazing agreements to have in family law? One, be impeccable with your word, and don't expect me not to be impeccable with mine just because I'm your lawyer, right? Don't take things personally. Everyone's got their story, and it's coming from their story and their perspective. Let's not make it, it's not personal, it's their story. And then, always do your best. We always want to do our best. That's the most important thing. Well, actually, that's the 4th one. And then don't make assumptions, because that's all we do. You get a letter from opposing counsel, you make a gazillion assumptions. No one actually gets the truth of anything. So I say to my clients, we are going to hold ourselves accountable to the 4 agreements, me and you. And they seem trite, but the only way that we can actually get to the bottom of anything is if, at least between you and I, we are open to difficult conversations. And that I can hold you accountable to those as well. So I've got them in my engagement letters with my clients.
That's beautiful. We're using a term called lovers of the essence, and putting that into terms of engagement, wills, constitutions, because that one line, lovers of the essence, requires a person, when they're making any decision, to think of the loving place to come from when they're making the decision. So it could be and we say it's for the highest good of all. That decision is to be made without fear. So without fear of repercussion. This is from I've dropped all my fears about everything. Everyone's agenda is not on the table. And what is for the highest good of all in that moment? Because as we know, moment to moment to moment, life changes. Mm-hmm. So life is momentary. All you have is now.
Yes.
So this is all you and I have. We have this moment that we're talking right now, and that is, I think, they're just really powerful words, infusing love into documents.
Oh, hallelujah!
You're doing.
Yeah, I want to just hug you. It's
Well, it's so wonderful, and I've been talking to lawyers around the world that are doing their bit in their unique way, because they're seeing the system as not functioning terribly well, and so they're trying to bring in something more loving for people so that they can connect. And because lawyers want to be of service, the majority of them, a lot of them have been trained, they're in the machine, unfortunately, and they're serving shareholders, and they're just getting costs. And look, if money's what you want, go for that. That's your own trip. But for many of us, it's we need to bring service in. We want to be fulfilled in our own jobs, and your cup has to be full too before you can.
Hey, Virginia, aren't you finding that lawyers are getting tired now, right?
Yeah.
There's lawyers are tired of the bad names that we have. We're tired of not getting recognition for the hard work that we do. We're tired of always being, the bad guys. Lawyers are tired. They want to change, but they don't know how to do it. Because why? Because law schools train us to be these soldiers.
Yeah.
And,
yes. Exactly.
Lawyers are so tired now. Right? Like, we've overtaken dentists in suicide rates.
No, it's terrible.
We always have to be better than everybody else, right? But
I had a client come into me once and said, "This is worse than going to the dentist." I thought, what? That was just the most revealing thing ever. I just thought, wow, that's how a lawyer makes people feel, because really, you're being challenged. And I had a client sit in front of me one day, and it was a family law matter. It was all rather amicable, but he said, "Do you know what's the worst thing that's just happened to me?" He came in with a letter from his ex's lawyer. He showed it to me. It was just a standard letter. It just said, "We act for, we're going to settle this without going to court." It was just a nice letter. But he said, the worst feeling came over me when I got that lawyer's letter in the post. And I thought, that is incredible. For me to hear that, I hadn't heard it. And from that point forward, I was very cautious and careful how the wording I used in letters to the other side. Because I'll tell you now, I just went through my own family law matter, 30 years of marriage. And the opposing counsel was, let me say, a commercial litigator, not a family lawyer. And it was very harsh and very personal. And I thought, it taught me so much about myself, because this is personal. It wasn't me being the lawyer me. I have a lawyer acting for me, because there goes the full lawyer who acts for herself, and she did try. But that was the foolishest thing I could have done. I had to take a step back from that.
Yeah.
And the shots that were fired were meant to harm.
Yeah.
And I thought, I have just had the blessed experience of having this side of the desk to sit on as a client. Yeah. And having that taught me so much more about the legal system than you can know. Okay. And that's why I see it just done so differently. Now I'm acting for clients, saying, I'm not acting for you in the capacity of lawyer anymore. I'm acting for you in the capacity of someone bringing wisdom to the system and guiding you through the legal system. You may need a lawyer. I'm still a lawyer, but you may need a lawyer to help you. But when you are reacting to the letters that are being fired at you from opposing counsel, this is the best gift ever. It's game on, because you will now see how you're reacting to that. That is what I learned. Yeah. And I found within me feelings of guilt that I hadn't dealt with. These are beautiful gifts I was able to bring to the surface for myself. Yeah. And it was absolutely amazing. So I want to be able to bring that to people and show them this is the best gift ever. If you're going to have to deal with the legal system, enjoy it from the place that it can bring you such great healing.
Yeah, it really can. And, there are two things that I say to my clients as well. It doesn't matter how friendly my letter is going to be. When your spouse gets it, it's going to be an arrow in their heart. It doesn't matter how friendly and flowery I can make it. They're not going to, it's just going to be devastating for them.
It's an attack. It's an attack.
It's an attack.
It is the arrow. You are firing an arrow, and it really is an attack, irrespective of what. And I found you can't even read what the content is, because you're running stories.
Yeah.
And I learned so much.
The first line, dear Virginia, read. Virginia and whoever. It's like, what? Like, I'm already in a, like just the title, right?
That's right. And it's such power.
Yeah, it's power. And the other thing that I always acknowledge to anybody who phones me, doesn't even retain me, who picks up the phone to call me, I say to them, I want to acknowledge the bravery that you had picking up the phone and calling me. I said, because I'm sure you've picked up the phone many times and you put it down. Because I said, I want you to understand that I know that the second you engaged in this conversation with me, it was game on. And that's a very brave thing to do, right? Because, and they go, yes, you don't know how many times I've picked up the telephone, but I just couldn't do it, And again, just honoring them and saying, I get that. This is a brave thing to do, right? And most lawyers don't even think of how much turmoil a client went through before they actually said, hi, I'm calling to see if you can help me.
Because you are then bringing another person into your relationship. You are bringing all your personal information into this public space. And it is almost a ripping apart of energies that you're going through at that point in time. And that, aside from the pain, because, you know, most people will stay in a relationship of domestic violence, for example, because it's familiar. We feel comfortable in that space. I can say that because I have lived it. And people say, why don't you move out of that? No, because it's familiar. I know how to deal with it. I know the energies of it. And at the bottom line, when we turn it around, we know at our core level, there's something in there for us to look at. There's something in there for us to learn. And if we move away without learning that, we've just lost a major opportunity. But we'll find it again with another relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, right? Because you have a lesson. So let's just, you failed the test. So you have to.
Yeah, that's it. So go to the next relationship. And there's another one waiting for you right there. And that will show you all the same things. And this is where lawyers have the opportunity to say, okay, did we leave how are we leaving this relationship? Is it from the place of compassion for the other person in there? If it's a violent situation, a lot of people can't see that you can have compassion for your estranged partner who is even, you felt cruel to you because this is your reaction. And this is what you got yourself into. I enabled my situation. I learned that. And I have big views on all that because I've lived it, but that's for another day. But it is really important that if a lawyer can come and say, do we have compassion for all players in this game first, and see that everyone's perspective is right for them, no matter what's happened. We're all not angels here, people. And some people say, yeah, that's right. But people say, people test me on this and say, yeah, but what about the psychopaths? What about the killers? And I say, well, particularly for children, you think, well, children are living in households with narcissistic parents that are psychopathic, that are emotionally, mentally harmful to them, as well as those people that are physically harmful. There's no difference in the level of harm. It is just what it is. And so let's see all of that and honor where everybody comes from. Because there's a reason that the parent is, or the spouse is, or whoever is doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's because they feel better in the doing of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the compassionate court idea that you have is absolutely delightful. I love it, Nicolle. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Well,
so what steps are you taking what steps are you taking next with it? Where are you going with it?
That's a great question. I joined. So what happened is I had this vision, and I was like, what do I do with this? And there's one judge in the courthouse where I practice the most, where I go the most, and I just love this judge. He is so wise and so compassionate, and when you are going to go before this judge, you're gonna get home late, right? Or you're going to sit in the Zoom waiting room for 2 hours because he is talking to every single person in that room. He's seeing them, he's understanding them. And I have such respect for this judge. So what I did is, after I'd spoken to Stu Webb and said, do I have your permission to change everything about what you're doing with collaborative law? And he did. He gave me his blessing. I wrote a letter to this judge and I said, I've got this idea, I've got this concept. Can you give me 30 minutes of your time? And I sort of, in a letter, I pitched this idea to him. And he was so generous. He spoke to me for 2 hours, and I wouldn't even say telling me the pros and the cons. Like he had no negative things to say about it. In fact, he embraced it. He just said, this is bigger, like this is sort of a federal thing that you're asking for an entire court system to change. Or I said, no, I don't want the court system to change. I just want a courtroom. So people have got a choice. They can go the litigation route if they want to, but I want them to know there's a choice in the courthouse, that there's a different way of doing things. He said, but even that, he said, that takes funding. And he said, particularly with Corona now, he said, where are governments splitting up their money? You know, you've got housing, you've got health, and you've got the law. He said the law isn't where the government's going to be putting their money right now. You know, so he just gave me food for thought. But the fact that he said, I think this is a great idea, and he gave me one or two sort of little things to think about as well. I just, like you said, I want an adult to say to me, "You're doing a good job. This is a great thing." You know, like I wanted my daddy to tell me this is perfect. You know, so
it is. It is perfect. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love that people like you and many of our other lawyers out there are thinking of things like this or trying to come up with solutions. It's absolutely beautiful.
So
and I've just had
Virginia, just to answer that, I don't know, because I actually think it's bigger than me. And I think it's going to be intuitive. I think I'm starting to develop and talking to more people, because I've been very worried about who do I talk to about this. Like, I don't want to be taken the wrong way. I don't want my baby stolen from me. And now I've got more courage to talk to people. But truly, I think it's bigger than me. And I don't think it belongs to me. And so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's time to collaborate on these sorts of issues. There's many of us out there with beautiful ideas, and I think it's time to start collaborating, because we're looking at a big system, a shift. And my idea is it's an alternate platform, not a fix of the old one. In this country as well, there's too many band-aids we've been trying to put band-aids on the system. You can't do it. You cannot do it. It has to be an alternate system entirely. And so that's what we're working with as well.
Yeah.
So, it's so beautiful. And thank you so much. I've just said Ken Haldenstein, sorry, Ken. I just said a big thank you to us. So that's really lovely to chip in and say hello. I love that, because, he's also doing amazing things and another amazing human. We love it. And it's so wonderful to have you. Now, I just wanted to close out by asking you one question. If you've got a tip for any lawyers out there that want to bring more love into their legal practice, what would you say is something easy for them to do? I know it's a scary idea for a lot of them, but it's something easy that they could do.
Be kind. That's it.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. Just be kind. It couldn't be simpler than that. Could not be simpler than that. Thanks, Ken. Be kind. I love that. Now, if you want to get in touch with Nicolle or support her ideas too of Compassionate Courtroom, her website and details are in the description on this chat. Please do, and please see Nicolle if you're in the Ontario, Canada area. We love her. We'll be popping her up on our website too, and popping her on our map eventually. We're getting a map up of all the loving lawyers around the world, so we wanted people to connect in because we need lawyers in our area. So
we have heartbeats where we are on your map, so we can see hearts beating and all over.
That would be lovely. Yeah, we'll try and work on something like that. I think that's a beautiful idea. And I'm Virginia from Lawyers for Love, and we're just trying to bring more love into legal practice and the world. So thank you all for joining us, and we've had a few people come through and check us out today. So thanks, Nicolle, We'll speak again soon. Thank you. Take good care.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.